Hey, how's it going, everyone? I got an altered replay for you all, and today we're going to be playing Sigismar, one of the more popular decks out there. And we're facing off against this here, Akesha and Taru, which has a very interesting hero ability that lets it tap itself to basically pass the priority to the opponent. Of course, in altered, it's always nice to see what the opponent's gonna do so that you can react to it. So typically with decks like this, you have a more control-like playstyle. And as you can see with my opening hand, I open a Order Scaria, which is really nice for Sigma because that allows me to contest two of the zones at once every single turn, unless the opponent, of course, removes one of these. I have one of my uniques, which is a Monolith Legate. If this one is played from the hand and I do control a landmark, which I probably will have in this game, I can boost all my characters. And then I obviously want to be keeping these two. I have a choice between a Baba Yaga, Orders Cadet, Sticky Notes, and the Order Spy. In this game, I ended up keeping the Orders Cadets because it gives me a little bit more flexibility on turn 2 if I do go for a Orders Carrier play, because then if I do draw into a 2-drop, I can play both the Orders Cadets and the other thing at the same time. So the opponent is going first in this game. We're going to be seeing my 1/1 token coming down, and they decide to straight away activate the ability to pass the priority over to our side. In my case, it's gonna be a very quick turn. I just put the landmark down and then pass priority back to them, which does give them the opportunity to put something down on the right side so that they can win that lane. And maybe they even, I don't remember if they also tried to go for the left one, but they probably just end up, okay, that's how they did it. So they slapped my token in order to stop me from advancing there. So they advanced one forward and I didn't. So at nighttime, at dusk, we see the opponent moving one forward, and then we're off to turn number 2. So turn 2, I end up putting the Order Spy into the resources. Maybe it would have been good to have some kind of sabotage ready, but at this point I still wanted to keep the Monolith Legate, especially since I will have this one coming out of the reserve in the next turn. So playing both of these in one turn can be a very big power move. In this turn, though, you will see me playing the cadets as well as the Asma, because when I play the cadets, it puts me at 3 characters, and then the Asma will give me a card draw. The opponent puts that thing into the mana as well, and as you can see, I have a bunch of tokens coming down. They slapped this one last turn, so we start off with 2 tokens here. We do have to go first. I started to contest the right side, and the opponent goes ahead and plays a somewhat annoying thing, which gets rid of my landmark, which I could have kind of expected since it is more of a control style deck. However, I still wanted to try and go for the legged play, and didn't work out for me, but at least I tried. And in this case, I still win both the zones because they have to spend their whole mana to get rid of that thing. So it's still okay. I still end up playing the Asma here. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I want to get the card draw, and that way I can still play that with the reserve next turn, and I end up passing after that, being able to advance 2 zones forward, which is very nice. The next turn, I have some very nice stuff going on here to start playing as well. So in this case, I can play these along with a trooper and then still have the 2-drop coming out. Alternatively, I can play the cadets as well as the cadets in my hand and the 1-drop and get rid of this one here. I ended up deciding to go ahead and putting the gatekeeper into the mana and keeping all the 1 and 2 drops because it gives me a little bit more flexibility to decide where I want to play. So with 2 things in the reserve, you obviously want to get to play one of those in case the opponent has some kind of a sabotage plan going on. I put the cadets on the right side, and the opponent ends up playing a Spycraft, which allows them to sabotage away the Asma out of my reserve. But that's okay. We have plenty of other stuff in hand, and we can make all sorts of plays if we want to. I believe, if I remember correctly, I ended up playing the cadets on the left side here to keep the trooper in hand as kind of like a backup plan to contest whatever they might be trying to win. They are now going to try and win the right side. I end up putting the trooper there as well to make it more difficult for them. And we end up moving forward. I pass, they pass, and I win yet again 2 zones at the same time. So as you can see, for a deck like Sigismar, it's really all about just swarming the field. If you can, in case of like the Legate or like if you have a charge or something like that, you want to just put a bunch of characters on the field and then buff them all with a +1/+1/+1 counter. Unfortunately, the Legate hasn't really been seeing play at all this game. I ended up still keeping it because I have this very nice Grand Endeavor landmark, which has tough 2, which makes it quite a bit harder to remove, especially on the early turns. By putting this one down at the start of my next turn, I can move one of my expeditions forward. So by playing this thing, it's kind of like I'm winning one zone unless the opponent has removal forward, but the tough 2 just makes it incredibly hard for the opponent to do so. I do have to go first, so I do end up just playing it straight away, kind of giving my opponent full information of what I'm doing. This one, it's usually nicer if you're going second, because then the opponent already did a move, they already spent some of the mana, and then when you plonk this one down on the board, it's much harder for them to interact with it because of the tough 2. The opponent decides to contest the left lane, stopping us from moving forward. This does force a discard as well, though, so in the end, we didn't get any value out of the Legate, which is a little bit sad, but it is what it is. I end up passing. They still have the option to play something on the right side, but I guess in their case, they didn't have anything for 2 mana to put down, so they only advance 1 time, and they have now the priority again. We draw into another landmark, the same one as the one that was removed earlier. It helps us to generate recruits. We move forward at least 1 slot on this turn. So I ended up not putting anything into the mana simply because I have a bunch of 1 and a 2 drops here. So these are already quite cheap. And by not manaing, I leave myself open to decide if I want to play in Order's Carrier or not, or if I just want to put another 1 drop down, depending on what the opponent is going to do. I go forward 1 thanks to my landmark. This puts us in a very close range to actually winning the game already. And the opponent is very far behind at this point. But you never know with these control decks, right? Like they are behind at one moment of time and then the next they just take over the entire game. So I do try to continue playing as optimally as I can just to try and to spike as many zone wins as possible, because for all I know, they might end up removing this and then they start putting some big stuff down and then I end up losing regardless. So I have 2 choices here. Like I can either put the landmark down already or I can put the mechanic down. It's kind of a no-brainer to put the landmark down first, because that way the opponent now has to decide what they want to do, and then we can decide whether or not we want to play the mechanic to try and contest whatever they are up to. I realize at this point, though, like if I just put my founder mechanic on the right side and if I win that zone, then as soon as noon rolls around, then I will get the free win thanks to the Grand Endeavor landmark. They had only 1 mana now, so there's no way for them to actually remove the Grand Endeavor. So I end up playing my unit on the right side just to be sure, and kind of hoping that 3/3/3 is enough to win that side. The opponent ends up scooping at this point because they don't have anything to stop us from actually getting the win. Everything kind of went my way, other than that the landmark at the beginning got removed and that we couldn't actually utilize the unique that I had in my hand since the very start of the game. But other than that, we had some really nice on-curve value. We had a bunch of 1 drop just coming down turn after turn after turn. And as you can see, thanks to the Order's Carrier, the recruits get put into 2 zones at once. It's very difficult for a lot of heroes out there to be able to deal with that. Also, because we are running things like the cadets and these put a 1/1/1 token on the board as well, it makes removal for the decks that opponents run all that more worse, because if they use removal to get rid of one of your units, like even if it's the 1/1 token of the cadets itself, they are only getting rid of 1 small thing while you leave a bunch of things behind. So it's very awkward in general for people to get Sigismar under control, which is something that I'm very happy about. Like I started out with Bravos originally, but with Bravos, you're usually playing like 1 big thing every turn or like 2 big things. And at that point, if the opponent plays any sort of removal, you're probably going to lose that turn and potentially the entire game. But anyway, this has been test run in regards to altered content that I want to be doing on the channel. I'm very excited to start doing altered content and seeing if I can maybe build a small community for it. So if you ever want to play, let me know down below. You can add me on Altered as well. I'm Kugane_5777. And I will see you all soon with another video, and keep on playing card games.